Welcome to Surgeon Syndicate. If you're paying attention, you know that you only make money when you work. It might be great money, but it's dependent on you. The information on this podcast will help you solve that. We interview experts and provide analysis into financial freedom through commercial real estate. Why? To help physicians like you thrive. Let's dive in.
Welcome to Surgeon Syndicate. This is your host, Dr. Michael McManus. And today's episode, we're just going to talk a little bit about moving. A lot of my friends and colleagues in the real estate industry have been like, man, this has been such an epic adventure. They thought I should share it with you. So if we're looking, there's probably some real estate advice in here somewhere, but we'll try and dig into that. But mostly it's just going to be a funny story of my move here as we're moving to Salt Lake City. And we'll try and dig some pearls of real estate out of that, and hopefully this will still be enjoyable for you. But you know, this move has been unique in so many ways. My family and I, we've moved quite a few times, kind of looking for new opportunities and doing new things. We since my wife and I have been married, we lived in Denver as I was finishing medical school, and then we moved to Virginia for residency. We lived in 2 different houses in Virginia. Then we moved back to Colorado, and we lived in Durango for a few years, and then moved up to Wyoming, and was there, and then to Green Bay. And when we lived in Green Bay, we lived in 3 different houses, and it was kind of the journey of success. We kind of had the doctor's success with what I was making and all that in Green Bay, and achieved all my professional goals. And that's kind of and we've talked about the story of the burnout a little bit. And for me, it's kind of those new challenges. And I think that was part of the burnout, is I achieved all my goals and then was looking for something new. But back to the moving story, when we moved from Wyoming, we lived in this little 100-year-old house in Wyoming. Our kids were little. And when we made that move, we hired a moving company that moved the house, but it was just out of this little house. But at the same time, when we came cross country, we had a 32-foot camper we pulled, and we had bikes and all kinds of stuff in the camper when we came across. And then when I closed down my office, I had another box trailer that I loaded up and had 4 motorcycles and a bunch of stuff from the office. And, so it was this like caravan of getting there, but it all came out of smaller spaces. And then we got to Green Bay. We lived in one little house for a year, just while we figured out where we wanted to be. And we moved to another house out of town, out in the country. And that was a little bigger, and we collected more stuff. And then we moved into our, what I always called the doctor house, the nice house in the nice neighborhood. And I thought we got rid of a lot of stuff, because when we moved in there, our kids were older. They were starting high school. We weren't doing the same things anymore. So we got rid of the camper. They hadn't ridden motorcycles in years. We got rid of all the motorcycles. Thought the motorcycles didn't need the trailer, got rid of the trailer. So we got rid of some big stuff there, and got rid of a lot of stuff when we moved into that house. So I thought this move is going to be so much easier because we got rid of so much stuff and we're downsizing more. It's not going to be that much stuff. But when you move out of a large house, we bought a large house. This is my first really big house. And then you got a bunch of rooms, and you got to furnish it, and you got to buy a bunch of stuff to put in the rooms and on the walls. And even when you start even though we got rid of a lot of that because we're downsizing into a smaller place, there's still just so much stuff. And so this whole journey began. We got a quote from one of the major moving companies. I think I talked about this a little bit before. It was a lot of money. And I was a little bit shocked by how much, even with inflation. And my wife's the problem solver. So she looked around and said, okay, we're going to do this different. Found you pack your own truck, and then found some local movers to pack it. And so this is really where the journey began, because, we hadn't done a bunch. My younger daughter's graduating from high school, and there's a bunch of time spent with all her end of school stuff and me wrapping up work stuff. And so it was just a really busy time that we didn't do a whole lot preparing for the move. Figured we had professional movers were going to come they would do 95% of it, of getting moved out of the house, and we could just finish up. Um, and so the movers come the first day to pack, and at the end of the day, I think I talked about this last week. My wife checks the boxes, and like plates weren't appropriately packed, and they were jingling around, and we're like, well, this stuff's going to get broken. We're just going to pay to move it. So here the journey begins, and this has been for the past, I think, 2 weeks, like just this mentally, emotionally, physically exhausting. So yeah, so she fired them, and some friends of ours, some awesome friends, offered to help us move. So we found another, and they gave us a referral to another moving company, but moving companies are booked. They can't just come in right now and have a crew. But luckily, they gave us a crew of three um, for a half day, and so we had a whole group of volunteers, of friends, come and help with the. We packed most of the stuff, the family on the inside, and they came and finished packing, loaded the truck, and I thought we had done like better than half, 70% of it. But that was my perspective for moving out of smaller houses. And so, the movers came and finished off that truck, and I thought we were almost done. So we packed some more stuff. It's like one of those, magicians pulling the rabbit out of the hat. Like they just keep coming, like boxes just kept coming. And we had another group come, and we loaded that second truck. Um, and had it, what I thought was most of the stuff. So the day they're picking up the second truck, because they just set a schedule that we're going to drop it off, you get it for 3 days, and we're going to pick it up. So I get up at 5 a.m. that morning because all I got is myself now. And I think there's not a whole lot left to do. So I go out and I finished packing the truck. And it took some creativity because our friends got really tired the night before, and it wasn't as efficiently packed as they had done before. And And I think I did a pretty great job, and I got a lot of stuff crammed into the truck. So the truck was all set. The truck goes away. I think we're done. Like just a little bit. Let's clean the house and we're done. Well, stuff just keeps coming. Here's the big house thing. Like out of every bathroom, under every sink, there's more and more boxes and more stuff. It never ends. Like we had a little bit of stuff we were going to put in the cars. And we'd looked at shipping a car, but again, I was like, it'd be a good experience for my daughter to drive cross country. She's never done it. Why spend all that money shipping? Gives us a little more room to put stuff in cars, and this should be pretty easy. So I get the cars packed. This was a few days ago. So I get the cars all packed. I get up early again. I'm back on my doctor's schedule. I'm getting up at 5 a.m. And I get the cars packed, and they're reasonably full, but it all went in pretty easy, and I was feeling pretty good. And then my wife starts cleaning and like, oh, final clean and move stuff out, and we're just staging and moving it towards the garage. And it just keeps coming and keeps coming. And now the cars are full. And I'm exhausted at this point. This has been going on for a week, the scramble, and everybody's exhausted. And I'm like, we're done. We can't move anything else. Well, it's Sunday. So we can't take stuff to the dump. We can't load anything in the cars because they're all crammed full. And we're just like in this total pickle for getting out of the house. And the house closes the next day. And I saw for the number of times we moved. That's the only reason I went through all our moves. We've moved a bunch. And I thought I was pretty good at it. And so we're down to total crunch time here. And we still got stuff and nowhere to put it, no way to haul it away. So, and now the cars are just fine. Like you can barely get in the car and drive. So again, some friends to the rescue. And the great thing is they've got these connections that are all community support. Like with the a house that provides support for battered mothers, where they have a place to go and be safe and live. And one that finds beds for kids, and all these community organizations I didn't even know about. And so they come through it's the 11th hour. It's like 9 o'clock at night. And we get all this last stuff, the cleaning supplies, the last bit out. Try not to leave a bunch of junk for the new owners because they're good people. We left some stuff, but it was stuff that at least I thought, okay, they can probably use all this because it was stuff we used for cleaning and different stuff like that. And stuff you can't just run down and get like some special mops and brooms for the some of the giant spaces. So we get it all moved out again. Thank goodness for our friends who just, saved our bacon and took all this stuff instead of it getting thrown away. Because all day we're like, we should have just got a rollaway dumpster so we could just throw this stuff out now. Well, since we didn't have that either, we had to find a way to move it. And actually, it all got repurposed and moved away. And that's probably my proudest point. This was my most, I would say, eco-friendly, humanity-friendly move. Because we moved into this house, we filled a whole rollaway dumpster moving out with stuff that I don't know if it didn't feel like it had much value, but we just cleaned out, man, just loaded up this whole rollaway. And this time we only had like two full, like just your standard community, filled up the recycling and the trash can over a couple of weeks and didn't have a ton of extra stuff and a million loads of to different like Habitat and Goodwill and all these thrift stores and got rid of a bunch of stuff. My wife had as a consignment store that when we moved a bunch of stuff out of the house when we moved in that they took. So we actually got a little money for some of that. Sold a bunch of stuff on Facebook Marketplace, which I had always been reluctant to use. My wife would use it for stuff. And so the first day I posted some stuff, which I thought was first one was a bunch of yard utensils, which I think are worth nothing, shovels and rakes and stuff. But I've also got this big stand-up jack. So I put it all together, put it on Facebook Marketplace. Boom, it's gone. We've got a chainsaw because our house has been in the woods. A good chainsaw with some safety equipment. Boom, it sells at a price I was amazed we got for it. And there was one other thing, but that first day, all my Facebook Market stuff was just gone. And people came over and got it. Oh, and a bicycle, a nice time trial bike, which was actually to a friend of ours, but he saw it on Facebook. And all this stuff was gone in like 2 hours. And and I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. So we got this other stuff to sell. Let's get going on that. This will be easy. This giant, like stand sit desk, this giant gun safe, and some other stuff. And I think, all right, we put it on Facebook Marketplace. It's crickets. We spend like this whole week, we think we're trying to get rid of this stuff and we're just getting nothing. So, but eventually we sold that and at some of it at just amazing prices. So some people got some good stuff at a good deal. But so even the last thing there gets picked up at like 5:30 on Sunday. Now we're cramming the last stuff and cleaning the house. And of course, now everybody's hangry. You're hungry, you're tired, you're exhausted. We're, getting ready to kill each other. And, hats off to my wife because she was the one who held it all together. Um, but we get this done. And so through this whole chaotic craziness in my mind, and right before we started this cast, we've got a rental property we owned, which one of the units we've used as an office and also for a place up in Marquette, Michigan that's, has a view of Lake Superior. I'm sitting there now. I'm looking out the window, looking out. It's up on the hill overlooking Lake Superior in Marquette, Michigan. Beautiful place, great mountain biking, great cross country skiing, an amazing uh, place to spend some time. Anybody in the Midwest looking to get away. Marquette is absolutely beautiful, special place. Well, our place up here, we're going to sell. So we had come up here right before we do the clean out on our house to come up and clean it out. And I'd planned on coming up for a couple days, but because of school stuff and the end of school, I couldn't get up here. So my wife and I finally come up here and we basically spend one night up here and we get up late, few hours, go to bed, get up the next day. We got a few hours. Now we got to get back to Green Bay for some other graduation school related activity. So it was a mad dash. And I'm like, you know what? I'll come back. I see where we're going to have time. I'll come up for a couple of days. I'll get things sorted out. And so in my mind, I was going to have this time to come up to Marquette, have some quiet time to regroup on my real estate business, regroup on the stuff I'm doing with our tax planner and a little business we're putting together to help doctors. And I'm going to have time to catch up on all this. So I think, okay, when we get the truckload, I'm coming back to Marquette. My wife and daughter will head to Salt Lake City. They wanted to stop and see her sister. And I can have this time to regroup. And I don't know about you guys, but sometimes, especially after it's been chaotic, I need like extended quiet time to really focus and think. and get back together, especially if there's creative things, that to really do the work. I think I'm going to have a couple, 2, 3 days to do this. Well, then my wife decides, look, well, I don't want to travel across country without you. Why don't we all go to Marquette? I'm like, all right, well, I need a work day. And they're like, all right, we'll go to the beach. We're gonna go have fun. Um, and this is kind of where it's kind of cool, but then totally changed because this morning, I get up early. I have a meeting with my VA. And luckily she is the one who's held the whole world together because she's still getting all this stuff done to revamp the podcast because we're going to do some new things here come this fall, to get things set for Fortress Capital, where we're going to start a whole new capital raise because we've got so many good deals coming at us that it's more than I have money to invest in. So see if we can help bring some docs along in that process. And so she's still setting up this infrastructure behind this through all this chaos. So thank you to Kate for all that because um, actually making progress there. And I think here's a real estate point for anybody who's wanting to do it actively. And I think even for any doctor, if you've got money out there and you have a lot of minutia, busy work tasks, getting a VA is one of the best uses you can have for your time and money. The amount of things that there are people, uh, offshore VAs, Mexico and the Philippines are the biggest places that people I know are using that are love to work for you. This is a good job for them versus working in a call center or something for a big corporation. These are good jobs. And the amount you can do it for anywhere from $8 to $10 an hour and up because some of these people you're talking tech support as good as anywhere you're going to get in the US. So you can get really quality people. So if you want to take some busy work off your plate, this is a great way to start. Now I looked at having a VA for probably a year and it was just overwhelming and finally used one through somebody I met through this group GoBundance. But um yeah, we got all this stuff knocked out. And now we're transitioning how I work with the VA, so that could change, but I've made enough connections there. So that's a cool thing. If anybody ever wanted to discuss that and just, a little bit of here's how you find a good VA. I know of so many people now who have them, but also how to interview to find a VA. They're all over places like Upwork and stuff, and it all seems very intimidating. And we think they're going to. My fear was always, oh, they're just going to steal from me. Well, if you're giving somebody a paycheck at the end of 2 weeks, they've already done the work. So there's not a lot of access there. And like I said, more often you're going to find they're going to be more committed to you than you could ever imagine than a domestic employee. So that's a great thing. And set up this transition because I'm transitioning out of the VA company. She took care of that even though we're transitioning out of the company. So uh, got her set with a new job, got all these things set up for me going forward, all just awesomeness. So so now here we are. We're back to the moving story. We get moved out of the house. We were going to come up to Marquette, but now it's 10 o'clock at night, and I haven't traveled with our dogs in a long time. And the hard part is there aren't many hotels, and if you're planning last second, where do you stay with 250-pound dogs? And a lot of the hotels that take dogs aren't near as nice. So we're looking for places in Green Bay. They're very limited, and I think there were only like 3 places in Green Bay, and one charged an extra $100 a night to have a dog. And I was like, I just need a place to sleep tonight. So, shout out to the East Green Bay American. They is actually for the price. It was much nicer than I expected. It was a great place. Dogs had a place to sleep. So we got that pulled off at the last second, making a reservation, of course, at like 9:30 at night. Um, and we're like, okay, we can go up to Marquette. Then we don't have to worry about the dogs. My wife comes with me this morning. I get up. I have a one call early this morning. Get that done. They're totally distracted now for a couple hours. Um, I have another call with Unicia from Excelstra because had to do some business planning. Um, Great call, and I'm all scattered. She's like, I'm like, I don't even know if I can be of any use to do this call. but we did. It was she is so good that we walked through some stuff and kind of got some notes from now me to simmer on and let the problems come through. This is where you're letting your subconscious do its problem solving and connect the dots. So this is now, so we covered some good ground there, but then after that, it's like it's just chaos here. This is supposed to be my quiet workplace I get away to. So finally I had to kick my wife and daughter out. And rather than being a nice sunny summer day, it's like 50 degrees and the wind is blowing and it's cloudy. And so they went and found some stuff to do, and I got some more work done. But now they've decided this is where this becomes an adventure. Rather than just slogging it cross country for 3 days, where now she gets in touch with an old friend who we worked together with at the Keystone Ski School 2 decades ago, who now has moved back to Minnesota, where he's from, and lives in northern Minnesota. And we're like, wow, we're looking at the map. And she goes, well, we're only about a day's drive from seeing Chris. Why don't we do that? So she calls him. They're having a big 4th of July party. Oh, we'd love to have you guys here. We got all this space. We're like, oh, this is another good. We don't have to have a hotel for the dogs. So now this is turning into the epic adventure. So now we're going to do this like drive across the northern part of the UP, parts of it that I haven't seen. We'll see Duluth. Never been to Duluth. Heard cool things about that. And then up into northern Minnesota. I'm going to spend a couple days with friends in northern Minnesota. And now my daughter has been planning the rest of the trip. So 2 days from there to Salt Lake City. There's a million different options. I really wanted to traverse North Dakota because I've never been to North Dakota. I've driven through South Dakota plenty of times and every other route plenty of times. But then, of course, the Red River is flooding, and there's a flood alert till Friday of the Red River through Fargo. So we'll see. I think my daughter's made alternative plans because she really didn't like the idea of dealing with a flood. So she's trying to find a dog-friendly Airbnb somewhere about halfway between this, central northern Minnesota and Salt Lake City, and someplace cool because she wants to I was going to go through Bozeman and come down through West Yellowstone because I've actually never made the drive between Big Sky and like Driggs, Idaho. The rest of that I've kind of spent some time in. I wanted to come through there, but she wants to go through Teton Park. So that means we got to come south sooner. So I finally had to give up control because I'm not planning that and I'm not finding the reservation. She is. So I don't even know where we're going from there. But she's got some cool sightseeing to do on this 2-day drive there, and found some place that she's excited about in between. So there's the move. So what are the points of this move? I knew a lot of people in the Midwest who said I could never move. Now I see why. Because I've moved a lot and it's never been this stressful. But some of it, I think, one, the high school graduation, me leaving work, those were big things. But this is also the biggest house we ever moved out of. I never want to live in a big house again. Yeah, 3,000 square foot's the max. I'm looking more for like 2,000. I don't need all that space anymore. And there was just so much little stuff, so many things to get that big space cleared out that I totally underestimated. And that we ended up, you don't know what you're getting with a moving service. Anybody who's hired moving services knows sometimes you get really good people. Sometimes you just don't. And the amount of broken stuff. So at least now, if anything's broken, it's my fault. We had a move when we moved, I think from Virginia to Durango was the one, and my employer assured us, oh yeah, everything's insured. Well, it turns out it's insured by the pound. This one to remember if you're ever moving. Standard moving insurance is by the pound. You need to make sure your stuff is insured for replacement costs. So actually, usually renter's insurance or homeowner's insurance will cover that if it's still in effect during the move. So it has to be in effect during the move. And you want to check with your agent and make sure that it's covered for replacement costs. Because in that move, my wife had a carbon fiber bicycle frame get broken in the move. And the moving company's like, yeah, it's insured. How much did it weigh? It weighed 4 pounds. So it's like $1,000. This is 20 years ago. So it was like $1,000 frame, and we got like $1.98 for it. So that's a key part of moving. Plan early. Start getting rid of stuff that you're not going to get rid of because you'll want to keep stuff. And that's a hard thing. And it's almost like you need to get rid of stuff like 4 different times. Get rid of the easy stuff that you're getting rid of, and then start packing. And then as you're packing, you're going to be like, why am I packing this? And you're going to get rid of more stuff. But start early with the getting rid of stuff and start early packing because you're going to want to get rid of more stuff. And there's nothing more depressing than paying per pound per mile to move stuff across country and then unpacking, going, why did I bring this? And now you're getting rid of it after you moved it, or you put it in storage because you don't have enough space and you pay to store it for a year and then get rid of it. So start early with that. Ask for references for moving companies. And those can be hard to get because most people don't move enough that they really know moving companies. So get good references so you get quality people there. Leave yourself some lag time after the move out to get things taken care of. And then, if you got a long drive, it is cool if you can turn it into an adventure rather than just a grind across country. So there's our adventure, and I hope maybe there's been some learning from that. We'll probably talk in another episode about what we're doing with this fourplex because we found some cool alternatives to add value and really squeeze some extra value out of it versus just moving it along to another investor, and how we probably added another 30% to what we're going to bring out of it in the end. So we'll talk about that on another show, but thanks for joining us today here on Surgeon Syndicate, and we'll see you next time.
This has been an episode of Surgeon Syndicate. If you got value from this episode, other surgeons are hungry to become job optional, and you can help them by sharing this content today. Schedule a call and we can make a plan. Looking forward to having you with me on the next episode.